figure that we're going to be going. First off, according to CNN Business, their headline reads, "Stocks try to round out 2018 with a gain." According to this article here that we're seeing, the stock market has taken a hit, and it's down a little bit for the year, which really is not a terrible thing. Although if you've got money in the stock market, you always want to make money. Therefore, being down is not always a good thing, especially if you have the philosophy to buy and trade, or to buy and hold rather. And you're buying, you're holding, and you're hoping that things continue to go up. But as would be normal with buy and hold strategies, you're going to hold, and you're going to have to suffer through all the ups and downs of the market that are going on. So, if you're the type of person who's in the buy and hold mentality, like many people who are in traditional finances are, you're going to buy, you're going to hold at the recommendation of your financial advisor, and then you're going to look to try and know when is the best time to get out, to sell, or to buy into the stock market and whatever market it might be. But according to this, it says that the stocks are trying to finish a difficult year on a positive note. And as we get down here, it says for the year, the S&P 500 is down 6.3%, and the Dow is down 5.8%, and the NASDAQ has fallen 3.8%. Okay, those things happen. Well, let's compare that with what's going on in cryptocurrency. And if we take a look at what people are considering Bitcoin, which is the generic term for cryptocurrency now, although there are many different coins and companies and tokens out there that are in the cryptocurrency space. We're going to take a look at what one financial professor here at the College of Business in Creighton University, he states, "No investment strategies are worse than cryptocurrency." And it's interesting that he is a PhD, he's a CFA, a CAIA, and a professor of finance at the Heider College of Business in Creighton University. It also states here that he's a chairman and a CEO of Economic Index Associates and co-author of Tools and Techniques for Investment Planning, Investment Banking for Dummies, Strategic Value Investing, and Invest with the Fed. As the article states here, he's decidedly bearish on crypto. But the one thing that was interesting to me as I read through this article was that he was co-author of one of the tools that said invest with the Feds. Now, I don't know where you stand on the government. I don't know where you stand on the Fed being involved with banking and finances and all that. It really doesn't matter, but you're going to make the decision based on what you see as best for your personal finance, and I do the same thing for me. But if he is telling us to invest with the Fed has not done very good with our money. The Fed has actually, in my opinion, has stolen our money by taking it through taxes and taking it off the top before we ever even have a say in where it goes. And then they are using our money to do what they want to do, not what is in the best interest of the people. So the interesting thing too about the Federal Reserve is if you've ever taken the time to look at it, the Federal Reserve has never been audited. The Federal Reserve has never been audited. And that's an interesting point to make and to think about. The Federal Reserve has never been audited. That should throw up some red flags. But basically this guy here is telling us that no investment strategies are worse than cryptocurrency. Well, you're going to have to make up that decision for yourself. Here's another one from CCN. It says, Bitcoin to end 2018 with an 80% drop. What investors should expect in 2019. Well, okay, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general, in this case they are actually picking out Bitcoin. The coin, Bitcoin, the company Bitcoin ends with an 80% drop for 2018. Okay, fine. So individual companies do have those kind of drops from year to year every so often. The whole market as a whole generally is pretty much down about that. But here's something for you to consider. When you consider how old the stock market is, when you consider how old the money markets are and things of that nature, and you consider how young cryptocurrency is, you need to take that into consideration too. That first article we looked at that said the Dow Jones was down this year like 6.8%. Let's take a look for a second at this chart. This chart here says stocks, equity in stocks. They were created in 1790 through the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. So they have been around for about 232 years or so, 236 years, whatever, off the top of my head. Then you get down here to money markets, cash equivalents. The paper notes were first printed and first made in the 7th century during the Tang Dynasty. So money markets or cash equivalents have been around for quite a while as well. So they have grown and they've gotten their base together, and when they take a hit one way or the other in the market, even a 1,000-point hit from something that has such a solid base on it is, it's going to be notable, but it's not going to be terrible. Even back in the crash of 31, the stock market took quite a hit, but over time it did rebound. Digital assets, if we look at the bottom, digital assets, the cryptocurrency Bitcoin as we know it by name was created in 2008 in China. And here we are 10 getting ready to go on 11 years later, and Bitcoin of all of a sudden from the beginning of this year to the end of this year takes an 80% drop. Okay, fine. But the whole thing is it's a new asset class. It's only about 10, 11 years old. These other ones are younger. And back then in the 1700s, in the media wasn't as vast as it is. The news didn't travel as fast as it does nowadays, of course, with computers. So if there was a drop or something, it took time for people to understand what was going on and to get their news. It took them a little while compared to what we have nowadays. So with that thought in mind, let's take a look at some of the things that are happening in the cryptocurrency world. And we'll see what's going on here. We're going to go over to Twitter, and we're going to look at a few of the people who are involved in the cryptocurrency world. And in this case, we're going to be looking at XRP. XRP CryptoWolf states, as the Indian government deliberates over crypto regulations, positive segment growth among exchanges with their government decision. They have added new features and improved services such as offering interest on crypto deposits, increased liquidity, and better security. So we see here that the Indian government is deliberating over cryptocurrency regulations with the idea that they are going to start instituting a lot of the things that would go on in the financial market. They're going to start using cryptocurrency as part of that financial arm for their country, and therefore they have to put the regulations in place. So there's positive sentiment among exchanges with their government's decisions, and they're making decisions to bring cryptocurrency into their market. And India is quite a large market when it comes to liquidity, and it comes to cross-border payments, and it comes to financial products and things of that nature. India is a large player in the market. So now we'll look at another one that comes into us through Twitter as well, and this one is concerning Canada. It's CCX Canada. It's the Canadian exchange, Canadian cryptocurrency exchange, and they are saying, the Canadian cryptocurrency exchange is saying, if CCX lists XRP as a base currency, which trading pair do you prefer? Any advice, please comment below. What these guys are doing, they're cutting right to the chase. They're going to the people, and they're saying, okay, we're considering listing some base pairs, some trading pairs on our exchange, and we're contemplating using XRP as the base currency for trading these pairs. What pairs would you prefer? So they're getting right from the mouth of the people what the people want, unlike what the financial markets in the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial and all those big players in that area, they don't do that anymore. They don't do that as much, and they don't use these avenues quite as much either. Now we're going to go over to another guy on Twitter here, and we're going to take a look at what he has to say. This is pretty interesting here. David Schwartz posted a picture here of how the popular culture is starting to embrace the cryptocurrency world. We have got Litecoin here, as you see in this picture here. Litecoin is starting to advertise with the UFC, and that's pretty cool. UFC is a huge sport, and it's of course all over the place. So Litecoin is advertising with UFC. Thought that was pretty interesting. So as we see, cryptocurrency is making its mark and making this move into the mainstream market, and it's moving into the cultural markets here, as we see. Now we're going to go over to another guy here on Twitter as well. He is Meotastic, as is his name, is his Twitter handle, and we're going to see here as soon as it comes up what he has to say about Twitter. It says, he says, cryptos are threaten the integrity of the financial sector. Ha ha. Banks fined. And here's a list of the banks and what they have been fined over the years. Deutsche Bank has been fined $14 billion. Bank of America has been fined $76 billion. JP Morgan has been fined $43.7 billion. And these fines are all because of things that they have done that have been illegal. Things that if you or I did them as American citizens, we'd get our butt thrown in jail. These guys just pay a fine so nobody has to go to jail. Tell me the system isn't corrupt. Citibank, $19 billion. Wells Fargo, $11.8 billion. RBS, $10.1 billion. BNP Paribas, $9.3 billion. Credit Suisse, $9.1 billion. Morgan Stanley, $8.6 billion. Goldman Sachs, $7.7 billion. And UBS, $6.5 billion. Now tell me that there's not something rotten in Denmark when you've got all these banks here that can be listed as banks that have been fined because of things that were done not in integrity, and they were caught and they were fined when somebody should have gone to jail. Not only somebody, but a whole group of people should have gone to jail. Like I said before, if it was the average citizen, the average Joe, you and me, we'd have gotten our butts thrown in jail. But these guys, because they're in the group and they are in the in crowd, quote unquote, they don't get their butts thrown in jail. But the great thing about it is that with cryptocurrency and with the blockchain, this is going to straighten some things do. They always want to keep their competitive edge. But for those of us who are in the cryptocurrency market, who have invested into it and are in early, even before these guys started to get in, you're going to find out that for those who are in, we're going to be able to rise with that tide as that tide comes in, and we're going to find ourselves in a positions where these guys are too, so that we will be able to make a difference and to make sure that the integrity of cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology stays a place of integrity and a place of transparency, as opposed to the financial system that we have now, as you can see by this here. Now we're going to look at one more guy on Twitter here, Anthony Pompliano, and this guy is quite well connected to the community of cryptocurrency, and he is also an XRP guy too. And he lists here, he says, here's some of the things that were happening as of yesterday, 2 days ago. He's saying this is what happened this week in cryptocurrency. India is looking into legalizing crypto, which we just went over an article about. Litecoin is sponsored by the UFC, which we looked at. Italy is building blockchain strategy, which is quite interesting. Kuwait's national bank is using Ripple. Ripple is an offshoot of, is the company that is behind XRP and RippleNet. Square is named Yahoo Finance the company of the year, and Bitcoin is still not dead. Quite interesting. Yeah, all these headlines from the traditional markets now, from the traditional headlines, from the traditional news media, from the traditional finance arm, all through the year, as they were saying, Bitcoin's dead, Bitcoin's this, it's belly up, it's never going to come back, it's this, it's that. Well, Bitcoin is still here, Bitcoin is still pumping, and when I say Bitcoin, I mean the cryptocurrency market is still here, and it's going to be here. The cryptocurrency market gives us the transparency that we as people have been looking for centuries, and we have not found because of the big players in the market that want to keep their groups together and quiet and keep them behind the scenes and keep everything hush hush, And with cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology, we can be shown with transparency what's going on, because we can check on any address that is in the crypto market and find out what transactions have gone on. And as a matter of fact, we can actually check on accounts and find out how much is in each account, which is pretty interesting because you can't do that nowadays. You can't go and plug in Bank of America or Wells Fargo and find out exactly how much they have in their coffers and the transactions that they have taken over the year, the month, the week, whatever, and see exactly where the transactions are happening and who they're happening with, when they happen, and how much they're worth. You can do that with cryptocurrency, which is pretty interesting. And these guys just do not want to have that kind of transparency because they want to have control. Just as a final note here, I want to highlight something that happened back in February of this year. The Dow nearly 1,600 point plunge marks its biggest one-day point drop ever. The biggest previous intraday drop was in August 24th of 2015 when the Dow fell 1,089 points. Kind of going back to what I had said before, the Dow lost nearly 1,600 points on this day, which was a 6.2% decline in the Dow Industrials. Now, considering the foundation and the base of the Dow Jones and the width of their base, 1,600 points was not a terrible thing when you consider 6.2%. Now you've got the cryptocurrency market that dropped from the high of almost 20,000 in January to a low point of losing 80% this year. But like I said before, it is a new asset class. It's only been going for 10 years, and for them to take an 80% hit and to still be here and to continue to build up, it's going to take time. But you got to be patient. You can't go with your emotions. You can't go with what you're hearing in the air. Do not listen to what the media is telling you about these things. Don't listen when the media tells you that Bitcoin is dead, that the market is going belly up. Because if you look behind the scenes and you look at the headlines, you're going to find out that the headlines are actually telling you different than what's going on. You've got Fidelity, which has a digital asset platform, which it's going to be opening up first quarter of 2019. You've got the New York Stock Exchange, which has a platform for which they're calling Bakkt, B-A-K-K-T, which they're going to be launching in January to sell cryptocurrency to the average Joe. Right now is the early time to get in before those prices go through the roof and you actually don't make any money. That's why I'm into it, because I'm in before the curve, before the exponential curve, and that way when everything goes rising up, I'm on the top of that wave riding as well. And then you've got the other institutions. You've got institutions of higher learning. You have Yale, Dartmouth, MIT. You have all these universities and these endowments that have all their billions and billions of dollars, and they're taking a portion of their endowment and they're investing it into cryptocurrency. Now, if all these universities and all these banks throughout the world, like the Royal Bank of Canada and the Bank of Spain and India and all these large banks like this, and the Bank of America is putting in, they're putting in patents for ATM machines that will dispense crypto. pretty interesting. That came out about 2 weeks ago. And if these guys are really as down on the cryptocurrency market as they say they are, then why are they sinking hundreds of millions and trillions of dollars into this thing? Because they know that the wave is coming. They know that they're going to get the average investor to invest his money, and the average investor is not going to make the returns that these guys are making. That's why you hear all the negative headlines right now, because these guys are trying to drop the price down so much that they get it so dirt cheap that they can invest their hundreds of millions of dollars into it. And then when it goes up and through the roof, and then they tell you it's okay to come in and to buy these as a great investment, by then they've already made their money. The market is high, the prices are high, and it takes you years to make anything. Think about Amazon, think about the internet in general, think about Yahoo, think about Netflix, think about all those companies. Before they got going, nobody knew about them except the people that were in those segments. And then they started to get known, and then the wave started to come. And for all those who were in on that before that wave took off and it went exponential, they made their money and then some, because then it went up through the roof. So these are things that just want to give you some food for thought for the end of the year, for the beginning of next year. I'm Bill Treadway, ABCs to Wealth. Just want to touch base with you on that. If you want to know more, click down below. You'll find out a link where you can learn about cryptocurrency. You'll find a link where you can hook up to my Facebook page, my YouTube page, and you'll also find other interesting educational aspects there as well. There's also links down below that will give you access to what we call hard wallets, that will give you the ability for, if you have or when you do purchase cryptocurrency, to be able to protect your digital assets by putting them into a hard wallet. There's a link down there for the Ledger, and there's a link down there for Trezor. So take a look at those as well, and we'll talk to you on the next video. Have a Happy New Year.